Hello and welcome to everyone. I'm very pleased to moderate this panel. Our panel is on Tunisia today, with two very prominent figures in Tunisian society and politics. I would like to introduce our two speakers. I myself, as a moderator, I'm Basma Kodmani. I'm a scholar, founder and former director of the Arab Reform Initiative, and today I am a member of the Syrian Constitutional Committee. My two wonderful panelists are Lubna Jeribi and Ines Jaibi. So I would like to introduce them very briefly. Lubna was Minister of Education and Minister in charge of major projects in the government of Elias Farfar. She was a member of the National Constituent Assembly that worked on this Tunisian constitution between 2011 and 2014. She was vice president of the Committee on the Preamble, Fundamental Principles, and Revision of the Constitution. And then she was the rapporteur of the Committee on Finance, Planning and Development in 2014. Lubna became, in 2014, the president of Solidar, a think tank based in Tunisia that focuses on economic and social development issues with the aim of establishing social and solidarity, justice, as well as equality and equity in Tunisia. Ines Jaibi is a trainee attorney, a law and civil society activist. She is the coordinator of the Eyes on Law project, which monitors the constitutionality of the draft laws in Tunisia. She used to work as a network developer in Access to Justice project, which mainly aims to restore legal rights to disadvantaged women. She co-founded the Tunisian Youth Leaders Organization, which works to spread democracy, peace, culture, and reinforce the role of youth in public life. Welcome to both of you. I just want to say that this panel, unfortunately, once again, is held virtually, not in Tunisia. Although the World Movement for Democracy was planning to hold its 10th Global Assembly in Tunis this year, had been preparing for that for a long time, but unfortunately, we were not able to make it to Tunisia. So here we are, nevertheless, with our two prominent panelists. And I will start this discussion by asking our two speakers. Tunisia celebrated its 10th anniversary in December of last year, 2020. Since that date, when the Arab Spring, the whole Arab Spring, started with the self-immolation of Mohamed Bouazizi, Tunisia has become a very different country. It is more democratic, with a new constitution, with freedoms guaranteed. However, in many ways, it is still the same with a stagnant economy. So my questions to both of you is to say, is this a fair statement? Is it right to say what I've just stated? And from your perspectives, what is the biggest achievement of Tunisia's 10-year transition to democracy? May I ask you to speak on this point? Lubna, maybe first for 3 minutes, please, each of you. Lubna, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Basma. Just would like to have a little suggestion for my biography. I was not education minister. I was interim in Ministry of Higher Education and Research Science. But thank you for the presentation. Yes, I think in 2011, we had made and started political transition. And I know that after a decade, after 10 years, that there are still a lot of economic problems, and I would say disparities and unemployment has been worse. But we can still say that we have achievement. Our constitution, even though the political regime need to be improved, the whole constitution is an achievement. Our constitution with the constitutional committees, the superior magistrate of council, the check and balances, the freedoms and rights, and mainly I would say the freedom of expression is an important achievement, freedom of organization. We have the creation of association of political parties, and freedom of action is still actually, I think, a big achievement. The political transition, even though it's not finished, is an accomplishment. Independent election, you know that for decades under executive power, the election were guided by this power and guided by the unique party under the order of the dictator. And of course, it was instrumentalized to serve him. It's a big achievement, I think, is to wait few minutes before announcing the election results without knowing before who will be the winner. It's the surprise is an achievement for this revolution, to have these elections with institutions and with transparency, even though they have to be improved in terms of governance, and we have a lot to improve in our system of election. But even though the challenges are still here, I think that we should be aware of this achievement.
Thank you. Over to you, Ines. What would you say? Is this a fair statement? More freedoms, bad economy?
Thank you, Basma, for welcoming us. Thank you, Lubna, for what you have said. Thank you also, World Movement for Democracy, for this big event and this opportunity to talk about Tunisia and the challenges after 10 years of the Arab Spring. So I guess that 10 years from the revolution, there have been many changes, and there have been many improvements to our situation. Yes, we have acquired a strong constitution, which I think it's a pride to the Tunisian people, since it guarantees theoretically at least the liberties and the freedoms. Also, it guarantees the political pluralism, which we did not have before. However, the problem is that we still face many challenges, let me say, and not failures, because as to unemployment and as to the economic situation, we are facing a very strong and very hard challenges today, because we still need a strong and serious push from the government and from all the political class in order to make strong and economic changes and improvements that can sustain. And that's what we need today in order to guarantee the liberties and to guarantee what every positive aspect of the revolution that we have acquired and that we have gained. I would like to agree on what Madame Lubna Jribi said as to elections. I also insist on that. The elections, all the elections that we had are a great achievement of this revolution, even though they need to be improved. And even though our electoral law needs to be improved and amended, especially when it comes to the sanctions and in order to prevent the corrupted money that would affect the electoral outcome. So I think we need to celebrate every time that we have a free and transparent as possible elections. Although I'm a bit worried as a Tunisian youth on the situation of the liberties and the rights of the Tunisians nowadays, especially with the last government of Mashishi. Earlier this year, we had protests like in many regions of the country that have been faced with the arbitrary arrests. We had more than 2,000 arrests from all the regions in Tunisia because youth, and mainly youth, decided to express themselves. So it is true that the freedom of expression is very important and is a great achievement, but still needs to be guaranteed and still needs to be protected from the civil society. Also, the big achievement of this revolution is the Tunisian civil society, because it has been like the watchdog of every movement from all the political governments before, and it has been defending the achievements, the real achievements of the Tunisian revolution. So yeah, I would also consider the Tunisian civil society as the main achievement of this revolution. Thank you, Basma.
Very interesting. You have not mentioned political parties, but civil society is what you celebrate most. Okay, I want to ask you to get your reaction. About 6 months ago or a little longer, just before the 10th anniversary of the Arab Spring, a partner organization of the world movements called the International Republican Institute in the United States published a report on its survey in Tunisia. And that report says, when asked about the national government's most important achievement in 2020, 65% of Tunisians said it had accomplished nothing. And even more believe the government. 85% people believe the government, the ministries, 81%, parliament, 88%, are doing little or nothing to address the needs of ordinary citizens. So when you have a large majority of people who say that the government is doing nothing for the ordinary citizens, for the needs of ordinary citizens, we know they are talking at the economy. In fact, 88% of Tunisian citizens describe the economic situation, the current situation, somewhat bad or very bad. So what do you think about this finding? Do you think it is just a question of perception, not a reality? To what extent would you say it is a reality versus a perception? I will start again with Lubna this time, and we will revert order in the next question. Please, Lubna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Basma. Yes, of course, unfortunately, it's a reality, and the lack of vision, the lack of coherence, I would say political will, is, I would say, we didn't enhance deep and the structural reform that we need. I have spoke about the political transition, but there is a social and economic transition that we need to answer the young claims, revolution claims, and we didn't really make these reforms. So we didn't improve the public services, we didn't improve the youth employment. I would say, unfortunately, also the ideological debates and the fights and the political bipolarization has hidden these important priorities to be addressed. The pandemic has affected more and more negatively and drastically the socio-economic situation. Now the rate of poverty has reached 20%, we never reached this rate. Unemployment rate is 17%. And public services are being more and more deteriorated. Regional disparity are being deepened and development projects are blocked. And we have very low rate of execution, and we have between 30 and 50% of execution of development. So even though the budget is available. So this has, of course, an effect on the confidence between citizens and the state. We have deep problem of confidence between actors and making things more and more difficult to enhance reform. In Solidar and as civil society actors, we tried to be force of proposition by proposing a new vision in Tunisia with the participative approach. And we have by bringing together civil society actors, national and local organization actors, and independent experts. And we also launched a platform to enhance a dialogue on priorities and new orientation for new social and socio-economic model and new orientation strategic access. For the National Development Plan, and this platform was presented in the World Movement of Democracy last session in last April. I think that the civil society should play a strategic role at this very particular momentum that we are living actually in Tunisia in recent days. Which is marked the momentum by political blockages. And I think that this role, as it was played in 2013 by the quartet, as you know, and that has won the Nobel Prize, we should now play a new role. We reinvent this role of large spectrum, I would say, of civil society to be a part of the solution, to be a part of force of proposition, to enhance processes, dialogues, and to be really part of the new social transformation. We need to transform our administration to be dynamic for this reform, to be able to enhance reform. And this is the main, I think, challenge for this moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Ines.
Thank you, Basma. It's no secret that the economic situation is one of the, most deteriorated aspects of the country nowadays. I mean, it's no secret that the range of poverty is rising and is keeping increasing, which is really worrying. I mean, not only for me, but for every Tunisian. So it's normally that the survey would indicate such results. So if we, I just wanted to salute and what the organization of Lubna is doing, because economic improvement is not the responsibility of just the government, but also the civil society needs to play an important role as a push of proposition. We need to suggest solutions also. But this does not mean that the civil society is responsible of the economy and is responsible of the reforms, because the government and the political class in general, also the parliament, are the one mainly responsible of what we can call today the economic failure that we are facing. The problem right now. Thank you, Lobna. Yeah. The problem today, I think that the political instability is causing more problems economically than other aspects, because we need the political stability in order to implement the economic solutions. We cannot speak about economic solutions or economic improvements without having a political environment that is favorable for investments, Tunisian and foreign investments. And also another point, we need a political will in order to fight the corruption, because as Lubna was saying also, the public services are deteriorated also, and this is because of the corruption. We need to fight today the corruption, and it's not an easy fight. And the problem is that the political will is not really efficiently fighting the corruption in Tunisia. And even the indicators indicate that corruption is still increasing. And this is where the role of civil society comes also as defenders of the good governance of the resources of the government, because the civil society needs to play that role of monitoring the public administration and the political institutions, so the corruption would at least start decreasing. Thank you, Basma.
Thank you. Ines, you speak of corruption. We know how much the authoritarian government was corrupt, but with a bad economy and the lack of political leadership that I think you and Lubna described, we hear some people saying they want Ben Ali back, or they want a strongman in charge of the country. Especially young people in their 20s don't remember the time of Ben Ali. So what are young people saying today about the country? Do they want a strongman in charge, or are they really attached to the new institutions, democratic institutions of the country? Can you answer this fairly quickly? I want to get back to you with another point, please.
Yes. I think that the protests that erupted earlier this year in December and January 2021 are the perfect answer to this question, because youth and the whole Tunisian citizens do not want again another dictator or another strong man or strong person in the in charge, who guides the country by only his vision. So no, the question is clear, no. The people are fighting for their freedoms, and we cannot have any improvement in any aspect of the either economy or culture or politics without the atmosphere of freedom. One man cannot lead a country. One man cannot prevent any deterioration of economics. Also, it's the work of the whole country, with civil society, with political parties, and with everyone in this country involved and implicated in the process of the transitional democracy. So no, the answer is that no. Even though there are some isolated voices that say, "Oh, we were better before," I think that the majority of the people and the majority of the Tunisian citizens, are against getting back into dictatorship.
So youth is really attached to the freedoms. You don't get young people saying, oh, what's the use of having those political freedoms when we don't have a job and the means to survive? So for young people, are they happy about having those, and do they appreciate and consciously appreciate the freedoms at the political level, the public space level?
Yeah, of course. Even there are many frustrated voices and angry voices. It does not mean that they want to go back to the dictatorship and to the way it was before. If it's clear, what I'm trying to say here is that I mean, even though before it was a dictatorship, but still there were problems of economic deterioration and unemployment. Dictatorship never solved these problems. And if we need economic developments, and if we need any kind of development, we need freedoms to do that. And what we are doing in Tunisian Youth Leaders is that we are trying to implicate as much as we can Tunisian youth into finding the solutions to these problems of what I may call the conflict between the political class and the Tunisian youth. We have worked in many regions in order to make the Tunisian youth heard, Tunisian youth voices heard, and that's, I think, one aspect of the problem is that the political class, and especially the parliament and the former, even the current, especially the current government and the former ones too, is that they do not listen effectively. They do not listen at all to the protests and to the demands of the Tunisian youth. And I think that there would be no solution at any level if this continues, and if this and if this lack of confidence would continue. We cannot reach a solution. Especially, we cannot reach a solution with the arbitrary detentions that we have witnessed earlier this year and the security approach of the current government.
So there is I think, an interesting point that both of you are making, which is the deficit of trust in the political elites. Now, this is always a sensitive, not sensitive, but alarming development in any democratic system. I want to come to you, Lubna, to ask you, because you were a member of parliament before, you actually contributed to writing the new constitution, and recently you were a minister. So how do you feel when Tunisian people are frustrated, disillusioned about politicians and the government? Would you say that you are more comfortable working out of civil society institution, or you felt you had more impact and influence and agency within government? So looking at society, at the Tunisian political system today, first as part of it, and then outside it in the civil society, what is your judgment here? Would you say that people are being frustrated this way? Is there something you can do about it, and this disillusionment about politicians and the government?
Yes, thank you, Basma. Yes, I believe in the participative process, and I think that it's the most difficult way, but it's the right way to succeed and to build up bottom-up policies and bottom-up visions and bottom-up decisions that are and then appropriated by all actors and stakeholders, and that's how it works. I would, for example, speak about the constitution process. I think that the constitution was drafted with, I think, participative way, and maybe also this is one of the key of that. Its adoption was almost at unanimity, and maybe this is thanks to the participative approach in the parliament, and but also with the civil society and despite the diversity opinions in the parliament, we had almost a majority of adoption of its content. As MPs, we went to the regions, we organized rounds of constitutional discussion with citizens and opened the parliament to civil society, thanks to OpenGov initiative. OpenGov initiative, which was a civil society initiative, and I'm proud, Mania, I was one from the supporter and advocated for OpenGov in the parliament to make the parliament open and to make it in this participative approach and the processes. But when it comes to my experience as ministry, I can speak also about my mission as coordinator of post-COVID rescue plan when I launched a participative debate with stakeholders, as administration representative, as the private sectors, a professional corporation, civil society, expert. And I can say that this dialogue has issued some interesting content of ideas of deep reforms, and it has this advantage of to be having the adoption and the adhesion, I would say, appropriation of main actors. And I think that was a success of enhancing and implementing reforms. The frustration, of course, we know that we have inheriting from decades of vertical governance. So of course, there is also kind of recidivity. Sometimes we are seeing this vertical decision comments top down, and there is not a participative way. But another time also will be another extreme of corporatism and of corporatism that is blocking the reform process. So I would say Tunisia didn't find till the good the rhythm and methods and approach to make this participative approach efficient, to include opinions of civil society and of all stakeholders, but efficiently, so that we take the rhythm of reforms, we change things, but also we still in this horizontal governance. I would say a last point is also, and this is one of our thinking today, is maybe the civil society also need to be more, I would say, federated, more, because we are very diverse. There is huge an explosion of civil society. And maybe when we see benchmark experiences, there are, I would say, representation of NGOs and of civil society that are facilitate for institution to dialogue and to be, for example, present in the national dialogues. We see this in some European country, in Latin America. We have like a confederation of NGO, etc. Maybe we should think also to have a more effective role to federate the civil society in so that to facilitate to the institution this democracy, the participative democracy. I would say, of course, it's the democratic transition is a long process. We should be always constructing, learning, and building, and trying, and of course, it's when we see these experiences. So maybe we need a strong institution. We need a resilient institution. And I think that this is the priority for the moment, is that even though we have this political blockage, institutions should continue to deliver, should continue to make development. Administration should continue to be in this dynamic as it is in all democracies, where even though they have political problems, some of them do not even have governments, and still I would say development is running. And this is the problem, is that it's very linked. The development process and administration is very correlated to this political blockage, and this is the priority of the moment is really to have this strong institution this correct building and this resilience actor, so that will be, and so that first of all, democracy should deliver and should make development.
Thank you. I want to say one activist told me after transition in a country, transition is the rest of our lives. So it lasts forever. In fact, we are constantly in transition because there's always improvement to do. You know that the World Movement Steering Committee, which I am a part of, decided to hold the 10th assembly of its 10th assembly in Tunis because of its democratic process and achievements. And we were obviously conscious of the many challenges faced by Tunisia, but we were hopeful about the future. And this is why we chose Tunis for the assembly. And we are still hopeful that Tunisia will succeed in this transition. It is probably because of people like yourselves and so many active civil society groups that this is the case. But given what you have told us about the very dire economic and social situation, the loss of trust, etc., are you hopeful for this future? And I would also add to this question, what could outside players do, if anything, to help Tunisia, and in what ways? How should the major powers, Europe, international financial institutions, behave towards Tunisia? Are they doing everything they can? Could they be doing something different? These are my questions to both of you. So maybe Ines first, please.
Yes, of course we are. Yeah, I would speak about myself. Yes, I am very hopeful about the future because no matter how things may not work out as we are expecting right now, but we are here to fight for that. We are here to fight for the achievements that we have drawn since 10 years ago. And of course, my whole faith is in civil society first and in Tunisian youth, because in every crisis we find that civil society is the one that is taking the train to its rail, to its to its rightful. Yeah, you got the point. Thank you for the help. So yes, I am helpful. I am hopeful that things eventually will get solved finally, because there are many people that are working, even in the political class, that we are seeing now as struggling in order to find the favorable political environment in order to make things work and to make development succeed. We have. I trust that our Tunisians from all the categories, political, civil society, even the simple citizens, I trust that these categories will work for things to get improved. As to the other question about what the foreign aid can help and can do, I think that once the political scene is getting back to stability, and especially once it gets back to stability, we can. The foreign development can improve the situation with the investments and with exchanging experiences. Because it's not the solution. The solution does not reside in just giving money and just giving loans like that. We need the country to get stabilized first with Tunisians, and then look into foreign investments and look into the foreign solutions. So, thank you.
Lubna, can I add to my question a little bit? We look at, can we say that there is a significant movement towards new initiatives such as emerging social entrepreneurship? Can you also say, for example, that there are young political leaders, a new generation of political leaders who think differently, act differently, relates to society differently and to politics? I think these are aspects that are worth highlighting if you see them. Do you see them, Ines? Can you speak a little bit more about these specific signs of hope, which carry hope, which are new, really? Is there what is new in the behavior of young people and a new generation?
Yes, I think that the new generation is kind of forcing the political class to be more responsible. When you have protests and when you have youth that do not just accept what is, do not just accept the current situation, and they do not accept less than their expectations, and they are not afraid to express themselves. I think this is the kind of new hope, and having more and more youth that are involved in public affairs, even though there are many, as I said before, even though there is frustration among youth about the current situation, whether it's economically speaking or politically or even the pandemic, which worsened the situation, but there are more and more youth that are involved and trying their best to get included in the political and public affairs today. So that is the slice of hope that I'm seeing right now, because this young force is obliging and it's like the wake-up call of the political class. I mean, all these protests and all these expression of the hopes and the expression of frustration is what at least trying to give a strong message to the political class today in the parliament and in the government and in the Palace of Carthage also.
Thank you. Lubna, I would ask you a question regarding the issue of decentralization in Tunisia. As we know, a major factor in the uprising in 2010, end of 2010, were the regional disparities. And earlier in our discussion, I think it was you, or I'm not sure, maybe Ines, who mentioned the regional disparities as a major concern still in Tunisia, as a kind of a failure in pushing the development model in the country. Could you say a word about those successes in decentralization? And I would add a final point, which I would very much encourage you to finish on concisely, because we have little time left. But it is about whether Tunisia has really succeeded in preventing foreign countries, particularly those with an authoritarian tendency, such as China, Russia, some of the Gulf countries, from influencing Tunisia. Are you escaping that kind of dangerous influence for your young democracy? So here are two questions to you, and if you could, in a very, very short time, about 3-4 minutes, 4 minutes, we have 4 minutes, I'd be grateful, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I will just add one point that I'm agree to what Ines said. I would focus on also the role of women as also, and when it comes to decentralization, women represent 50% of elected local representatives, which I think its achievement, I would say, a start for transformation and for local transformation, because when these elected localities are represented by half a woman, we will start focusing on really problems that are women and women works and employment and logistics and transport and the baby caring and all the stuff. And these are also blockage for women to access to employment. So we think that the good process is enhanced. We cannot speak about success because it's not, we are not yet on it, but I think it's a good start. I would very briefly speak about one study that we have done with the United Nations on risks, all risks for next 5 years that are Tunisia will facing, and risk on development. And we have spoken about risk of regional influence, risk of climate change, risk of, it was 12 risks, political risk, economic, social cohesion, and all risks that are linked to SDG. And I will go to the result. The result, the most important risk that has come from this study with the UN agencies, and that Solidar have led it with 260 experts, etc., is that the two most important risks are, first, the incapacity of Tunisia, of the institution, to enhance reform. Is the cooperation and collaboration, capacity to make, as we said, working with exterior stakeholders, and this is because it's at the same time a richness but also difficulties to enhance these reforms. And if we focus on these two priorities and two pillars for our social economic transition and development process and further democratic transition, because it's very linked to when development is blocked, it's a danger for democratic transition. So the two priorities are, this is, we focused on these two, and we think that our main challenge for next period is to and even with international partners, to focus on these two points. We are, and I am hopeful, of course, because we think, and I think that we have resilient actors like civil society, like young, educated and creative, as Ines has said, but also about women, about, I would say, this new generation of social entrepreneurs, of startup, of creative women. Have 60% of university student employed women. They occupy majority of sectors like medicals, like lawyers, like researcher. And when I worked in the administration, I have seen a lot of high administrative responsible of women that are working. And so I think, and we cannot be ambitious and hopeful and optimistic, I would say.
Thank you. This is, I thought, a very hopeful panel. Thank you, Lubna. Thank you, Ines Shaibi, Lubna Jeribi. You have highlighted the vital importance of civil society. You hardly mentioned political parties. It's very interesting to see how you have this comprehensive vision of participatory politics, which we speak about in many other societies. Tunisia is a laboratory for the Arab world, and your success will be always a light of hope for other societies in neighboring countries. So thank you to both of you, and we hope to hear you and see you in those influential positions for a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.